You know, ladies and gentlemen, you don't just got one wrestler tonight we're talking with. No, we've actually got two because I might have announced one wrestler, but surprise, we got another wrestler to talk about, another up-and-coming wrestler here in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit, and especially, no pun intended, in the underground circuit they call for the Underground Wrestling Alliance. And we've got a lot to talk about, especially after you watched Monday's show when it came to all things related to UWA, where we had the headshot Jay Cal. Boy, did he give some headshots out there, and no gimmicks needed. Chase Sullivan had a lot to say, and if you got a chance to watch Newsflash with ET, our man on the left side of me also was a big topic of discussion. He got a big victory. We're going to talk about that here, and so I'm going to put some links up on the screen. Plus, I'm actually going to have an announcement right at the top. Not even going to wait. Just going to give it to you right from the mouths of the guys that I'm with right now. And plus, I'm going to give you a whole story about these guys and some different places they've been, some different states, and maybe some familiar names you've heard on this platform. Maybe one name that is setting a blaze across the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit. I'm going to ask his thoughts on him coming out because he wrestled this man. And maybe even the man on the right side of me has also wrestled another man that, well, he's pretty much at the top of the food chain, maybe right up there in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit, and especially for the UWA. But boy, ladies and gentlemen, we always like to live up to the expectations of prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all wrestling matters. And I could tell that our guests here tonight have never been in a position like this, but since they've heard so many of their colleagues in the UWA get that introduction that I'm famous for, and I'm sure my voice is going to be paying for 20, 30 years from now when I'm probably buried across the street in the cemetery that's from my house, it is time to give them that introduction that yours truly, the only platform where figuratively and literally all wrestling matters, can give them that introduction. So let's get right to it in prime time. So we're done! Without further ado, here on the Sportzwire, number one, one more for the road sports show. Stars from places such as SVBW, RWA, and now currently the UWA, the Underground Wrestling Alliance, the Rising Angel, Will Jackson, and the Shooter, Brett Anderson. Boys, how are you tonight?
All right, how are you, Beck?
Great.
Ask my voice when we're off the air because I might need a third one of these today. So that certainly tells you how long that intro was. But obviously, nice to meet you both. Obviously, a lot. But you guys have had an interesting run in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit. You guys are, I think, as Jake put it when it comes to you, Brett, definitely an up-and-comer in the yard. And I think we'll talk about some reasons why. I'll put some footage up here on the screen. But, you know, as I promised, I usually save this when my guests come on. Usually we kind of like slowly burn it. We slowly play it out. But I've got an announcement for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio that involves the both of you guys. And I was curious about it because I don't even know what this announcement is. And everybody thinks I know everything. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm all a part of everything. But I actually don't know what you guys are about to say. So this could be, who knows what it could be. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, the only platform that's in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, where all wrestling matters, the Shooter, Brett Anderson, and the Rising Angel, Will Jackson, tell us about your major announcement.
Well, recently we've actually been in talks with Dimitri Green, and obviously Tristan Taylor's a friend ourselves, and they've been talks with us for a while now, and we have come to negotiations to sign long-term contracts with Pride Wrestling Federation Mid-South.
Wow, wait, is that an actual contract? Wait a minute. Is that fine print?
Fine print.
Put it more to the left, to the right-hand side of the screen. Because I actually am wondering, wow, that's an actual contract. I've seen a lot of things in my career. I'm doing this for 5.5 years, and I don't quite think I've actually seen a contract, and you guys have that here in front of us, and you mean to tell me, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, that you guys have actually signed a contract with the PWF Mid-South? Did I hear that correctly?
Yep. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Wow.
We was very excited whenever Dimitri Green actually contacted us and offered us. I think Tristan Taylor talked to him about us a little bit whenever he saw us perform at the Jamboree and other shows such as that.
He was here about two plus weeks or so ago, just about. Yep.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, but it surprised me whenever they actually came up with offers for us. We was just as surprised as you are. We didn't expect to be able to be.
I don't get it often on this platform that I actually have a contract presented in front of me. It's actually funny because I'm a man that actually, in one of my side jobs, I actually deal with contracts and sign them and stamp them. And you actually have a contract that you've actually signed for the audience here. I mean, this is rather unique. I mean, gentlemen, you've certainly come in here with a bang tonight.
Yeah.
No, we sure tried to, definitely.
I appreciate that, because your last podcast appearance, I certainly wouldn't let the audience know about, Brett. But congratulations there. And I'm going to put the link up here shortly on the screen. But Pride Wrestling Federation Mid-South is forming, and I'm really excited about that. And congratulations, obviously, for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio. But talk about now what it means to you to be some of the newest members of the PWF Mid-South, which got some really big talents already signed, and talk about what that means to you guys now to be a part of the roster.
Honestly, it's kind of heartwarming because we saw that JD Mercer recently got announced.
JD Mercer, yep, correct.
Yeah, Mercer recently got announced for PWF, and we saw that Cody Flores got announced as well. He's returning to PWF, and he is honestly someone I'd be 100% want to work with. I love Cody Flores' work.
Me too. He's actually been in my chats going back for a while, over a year on and off, and he's kind of come back on the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit scene, I would say, over the last month and a half, and I think that's a guy that I'm really excited about, but I'm really excited about you guys joining some great talent here. We see some of these names, many familiar faces to the platform. Obviously, the whole thing there with Chase Sullivan and the IGPW relationship. Chase kind of broke that on the air on Monday's show. My old friend and your old friend, everybody's friend in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit. Dalton Skull's a part of the new PWF Mid-South. And, we've got some other stars. Obviously, Sammy Slade's a part of things. And we see Tristan Taylor. And, I mean, again, obviously, he's the man running the company. But got some really, really good names here. And I think credit to Dimitri Green and Tristan Taylor doing this the right way, building up kind of from the ground up. And you've got some great names. And I think a lot of people are going to be excited because I think everything that's being done so far in the PWF Mid-South is being done the right way. And I think you guys are going to add a lot to the roster.
Yeah, I agree. And we also, from what we was told, we actually got booked on the PWF Uprising Act coming up soon in August.
Well, I think that we can put that link up on the YouTube screen in a few minutes, but congratulations, fellas. I mean, obviously, you certainly came in here with a bang, and I'm very excited about that. I want to ask you guys this question. I want to break it here for the audience that's coming in here right now. It's officially the Shooter, Brett Anderson, and the Rising Angel, Will Jackson, are officially the newest members of the PWF Mid-South. If you want to get more in touch with the PWF Mid-South, you can do that here on Instagram. They're also here on Threadless. They've got a Facebook page, which I actually run the Facebook page. So believe it or not, if you see my face popping up a lot on the Facebook pages, because, well, yours truly is a moderator for the Facebook group. But, you guys have been to some different places. Obviously, UWA for a little bit, Brett, you more so than Will, and obviously SVBW, RWA, but the places that you've been, how will that prepare for what you guys are going to attempt to do here in PWF Mid-South?
For PWF Mid-South, I think both of us, it'll definitely be a new experience, especially to where Tristan Taylor was talking about one of the goals for PWF Mid-South was performing in front of a live crowd. And honestly, that's definitely one of our dreams coming true right then and there.
I mean, we've only had one experience with that kind of thing thus far. But it'd be nice to have a lot more experiences like that to, entertain people and let people, enjoy the product. I mean,
well, let me ask you guys that question. That's a great point. You have at least the one experience, and how do you use that experience to help you? Should we see PWF Mid-South have that live aspect to it? I'm curious on that one experience. And how do you use that to help you should that situation arise again?
Honestly, whenever we was backstage, whenever we was doing that one live performance, we was very nervous coming out. And honestly, just one thing on our minds, just give it our all and put on the best product possible.
That's all you can do. Listen, I mean, that's, listen, people come onto this platform. They tell me all the time, well, I'm nervous when I come on here. I watch you and I'm intimidated by you. But no, have no fear, ladies and gentlemen. That certainly shouldn't be the case. But if you want to get in touch with the PWF YouTube page, obviously you'll see some more information on that. But let me ask you guys the general questions. I do want to spend a few minutes on this, if you don't mind. What are your goals then at PWF Mid-South? You got some great names already. Tristan's a part of it. Cody Flores, Sammy Slade, Dalton Skull, Bulletproof JD Mercer. But those are some guys that are a little bit more established. Those are guys that have had maybe a little bit more success in companies that people know on this platform. But what are your goals in PWF Mid-South? Other than kick some butt, I know you're going to want to kick some butt, but I mean, what are some of the goals that you might have in terms of just anything that you might want to do in particular?
Honestly, work with some of the greats like Tristan Taylor. I'd love to work with him. Work with Cody Flores. I've worked with JD Mercer a couple times as
allies, sure.
Yeah, I've worked with JD a little bit before, and Dalton Skull, as Tristan Taylor himself said, there's not a bad thing you can say about Dalton Skull.
No, I tell people all the time that if you were to have like a presidential election for people in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit, Dalton Skull would actually win that, and he would win that in a landslide. It would be him and Sean Jovi, who is the resident rock star of the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit. They could be like president and vice president. Those guys, they would win in a landslide. They're the only two people I know that nobody has not a single bad word to say about them. I think that shows the popularity and also the great things that they do. But let me ask you this general question. You have some guys here and we'll take that off the screen for now. We'll put the link up one more time here. But there are some guys that have a little bit more experience than you guys in different aspects. Tristan Taylor, I mean, his family, he's kind of one of the rare third-generation yarder wrestlers. Very few people we have in our circuit that has that. You have a guy like Dalton Skull, who's certainly been established, and he's worked in some big places. He's got his own company, BYCW. He's been a part of TBW. He's been a part of a lot of different places. You have a guy like Sammy Slade, who certainly is a very, very big topic right now in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit. But some of the more veteran guys that are in the company, let's say, for example, a Taylor or a Skull. Obviously, Mercer, you guys obviously make the trip with going into UWA. But some of those guys, do you tend to maybe or look to pick their brain a little bit on certain things to try to help you guys in terms of the journey that you're on right now to help your career?
At one point, yes, absolutely. It's just because to where you get to face them at some point and you get to know the mindset of what is behind people such as Tristan Taylor, which, as you said, is one of the rare third-generation backyard wrestlers, which I've never even known that there's been third-generation backyard wrestlers.
Well, I started that a couple weeks ago on Sports. I mean, I've heard from people that are, have second-generation blood, or there was an uncle. I mean, Josh Allen, famously the TBW owner, has like a grandfather or a cousin or great distant uncle that was involved in the wrestling circuit. And we hear stories here and there. We have famously a guy, Mr. Judgment, who's sort of an underground indie-ish wrestler whose son is wrestling alongside him. We have some of those stories. Obviously, in DKW, we have Darkron, and his son is Combat Joe or Joe Stone, whatever mood he's in. He's obviously wrestling, but it's very rare to have a third generation. And Tristan's experience is just, I mean, he literally was born in a wrestling ring. Literally, no joke. He was like born in a wrestling ring. So to have him and to be running the company, it has to be exciting for you. And also Dimitri Green, I want to give Dimitri Green a big shout out because Dimitri Green is the guy that signed you. And Dimitri Green is somebody that also has a lot of experience in this sport. He's done a lot of great things. And just talk about how excited you guys are to be work under Dimitri Green.
It surprised me very well at first because Tristan Taylor did tell us a little bit about him at first about how they've given each other absolute hell back and forth.
God, wars that they've been through, those two, absolutely.
The wars that those two have been through, it just amazed me that he would be interested in upcoming stars like us to begin with, because we don't have very much experience whenever it comes to hardcore type of wrestling like that. I mean, I have a little bit more than Will does, but it just surprised me because it made me feel like we actually
are appreciated.
Are appreciated to an extent, yeah.
But I think what it is that, when you're a company, and I'm not surprised in a lot of ways that Tristan signed you guys, because he talked about wanting to do it the right way. When he was here a couple of weeks ago, he talked about that he wanted to bring talent in here to kind of let them be homegrown. And I think you guys fit that bill nicely. And if you look at the roster that we've occurred here in PWF Mid-South, we have a lot of people that are good locker room talents, a lot of people that are good to be around the locker room. JD Mercer is a great guy. JD Mercer, leave aside that he's a Cincinnati Reds fan, everything else between him, he's a great guy. You think about Dalton Skull, we talked about him. Tristan himself, his experience in this sport. Cody Flores is a guy a lot of people have a lot of great things to say with. Sammy Slade's a guy that has done a lot. So I think what I notice most and why I'm very excited about the PWF Mid-South, obviously I own a portion of the other PWF, but you're going to see more based with the IMF boys, Soldier GP and Omen Black. Of course, it is Omen Black's show after all, but wink and a nod. But I think what's great here is that we're building homegrown talent that we can get behind, and we're also getting good people that are going to make this a positive environment to be around, because all too often we hear the stories about, this one's here and that one's there, and it becomes all this drama. But everybody, I think that's here, it's really nice to see that we're having this very, very homogeneous locker room. Don't you guys think so?
I agree. I feel like PWF Mid-South has the biggest potential to be something absolutely huge at some point, because you got so many well-seasoned veterans out there, and you also got, uprising stars like myself and Will. But I feel like with the veterans is what's going to set the stepping stones along the way for others to reach that point of success. To reach that point of success like everybody else has.
Well, it's like anything else in sports, right? A successful sports team is you have a couple of veterans or a number of veterans to help the younger guys like yourself to be able to become solid players, solid team players, solid, obviously, people in the community as well, so the team can win. I have a background in college athletics. I'm friends with a lot of college basketball players, a lot of college coaches. I spent a lot of time covering college basketball and college soccer. What always made the teams, some of the teams I had covered, successful was you had players that learned under the veteran players. There was a family-like atmosphere. The coaches that were there on staff made it an environment that you wanted to be there. You wanted to be at practice. You wanted to be around the team, whether it was team meals, whether it was a night out, whatever it was. And I think that the people that we've put here in PWF Mid-South, and one more time, this is the link on Instagram before we change topics. This is where you can get more information. You got some great people here. Again, JD Mercer, again, leave aside that he's a Reds fan right now. JD Mercer, great talent. The Reds may not be bulletproof, but he's bulletproof. Dalton Skulls, what could I not say about Dalton? Chase Sullivan, a man that obviously you guys certainly know a lot about. Maybe, inside the ring, maybe not as many good things to say, but outside the ring, great guy, great relationship with this platform. Cody Flores, a guy I know a lot about as well. Tristan Taylor, certainly we know a lot about. Sammy Slade, a guy that, I've got to make you guys laugh with this, but almost to me is kind of like, he looks like Buddy Murphy. I mean, I keep saying this all the time on sports right now. Now, I'm sure Sammy's going to cut a promo on me now on UWA TV to come out and say, how could he say that? But for whatever reason, every time I see Sammy Slade on UWA TV, and now I see him back on my screen, for whatever reason, he looks to me like Buddy Murphy. But I'm sure he wouldn't complain about that, because after all, Buddy Murphy's married to this woman named Rhea Ripley. But I digress. we've got some great talents here in the PWF Mid-South, and congratulations to Dimitri Green and Tristan Taylor on doing things the right way, and I'm very happy to be a part of the PWF. Obviously, as one of the owners of the other PWF alongside Omen and Soldier, I know that we've all had great conversations. I think Tristan and I might be a little bit more closer than maybe Omen and Soldier are to Tristan, but obviously, if you want to find out more information, PWF Mid-South. But again, the newest signees of the PWF Mid-South are the Shooter, Brett Anderson, and the Rising Angel, Will Jackson. Boy, certainly a rising tide always lifts all boats, in the famous words of two of my all-time favorite presidents and most of this country's favorite presidents, and John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan. And I think we got two of those examples of a rising tide that'll certainly lift all boats. So let's take this off the screen here, but we'll certainly come back to that should we do that later. We'll come back to the link and talk to you a little bit more about it. But I want to talk right now about UWA, the Underground Wrestling Alliance. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard of it, right? You guys heard a little about the Underground Wrestling Alliance? You know a thing or two about it, right? Everybody know a little bit about it? Oh, yeah, all right, because, I saw you on a podcast the last time, and the guy who did the interview was like, didn't seem like he knew anything about it. So I wanted to make sure to open it up for the people here live on this platform if they knew a little bit about the Underground Wrestling Alliance. But obviously, I digress. But a lot of great things ahead. And I want to go with you, Brett, first, because, Will, I think your story is a little bit less kind of in terms of what we've seen in the public notice. But you had a big win at Anniversary 3. I'm going to put that up on the screen here shortly. I'm also going to talk about ET's Newsflash, which kind of ties into you a little bit. And Brett, talk about maybe the big win that we saw here at Anniversary 3 and just how do we use that going forward into last rites and some really big shows coming up here. UWA is going to heat up more so than the heat wave we're all facing right now in this country. Talk about that for the audience.
So my victory at on Anniversary was very, very strategized whenever I was in the match with Volador.
Went over Phantasma Baltimore. Very big win.
Volador was definitely an opponent that was much, much different. He was very, very similar to Aaron Blaze, and I loved facing him. I loved facing both of them.
I'm going to be asking you about my buddy Aaron Blaze. He's the reason I've been talking UWA for 2.5 months. So that's going to come up next.
I did like facing Volador, and it was definitely a different feel in the ring. Like whenever I faced Jake Howell before as a technician, it was basically mostly submissions. It was chain wrestling, and I loved every bit of it. But Volador, whenever he tossed me to the outside, and I just see this man just jumping over the top rope, flying over the top rope at me, I'm like, oh no,
they're coming.
I was like, dear Lord, this man was just something different. He was definitely something I did not expect to be able to wrestle at any point, but it was an honor facing a former YBW world champion. I've seen a lot of YBW stuff.
Shout out to YBW. They have a new website out. They've got over 1,000+ subscribers. They just had a show on Monday that was great. And I'm not just saying it because Aaron has been a dear friend of mine for a long time, but YBW is killing it out there. And it's great to see collaborations. And I love the relationship that YBW and UWA has, but definitely, a great opponent that you're facing here. And, how does this help you, Brett, in terms of what you want to do here, which I know is obviously a curse of gold? You've had some different shots here at different things. You're in the ladder match at FD3, which, by the way, FD3, I mean, what a successful show. And obviously, you faced off with Jake Howell to start your career here. You've had a shot at Chase Sullivan. You've been involved in a lot of different matches. But how does a win here, and obviously Aaron for the Heritage title, but how does a match like this here get you on track to eventually trying to hold some gold here in UWA?
Honestly, whenever I was facing Volador and I got the victory, it made me realize that he was getting me ready for the bigger stuff that's coming my way. And I 100% do see a future that he was potentially getting me ready for, because I didn't expect a lot of the things that he did in the match, such as that suicide dive to the outside. It 100% caught me off guard. I was like, oh my, and in bigger matches, such as whenever I do face, if I face for championship gold once again, like CJ or Aaron Blaze for the Heritage Championship.
You can't be caught off guard with CJ. If you're going to get another shot at Chase Sullivan again, or whatever happens with the whole situation with Chase Sullivan, or between Jake Howell, the headshot, or even if you get a shot at Tristan Taylor. I mean, because Tristan Taylor is the guy who's got the shot right now at the UWA Heavyweight Championship. I mean, listen, you can't be caught off guard. So knowing that you were caught off guard a little bit if you're going to go and have a shot against guys like CJ, or even a guy like Sammy Slade, or a guy like, again, Tristan Taylor or Jake Howe, so many great talents here in UW, or even another shot at Aaron Blaze again. You know that you have to know every single thing they're going to do, and you have to be ready for every single thing that's thrown your way in order for you to get over the top and go from this emerging talent that people are excited for to be a guy that can hold some gold.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. Whenever I was watching the podcast between you and Jake Howe, and I saw Chase Sullivan come in, I was like, oh my, this is about to get heated. And I started taking notes about what all is going to happen. And I'm just like, man, this is going to be very interesting. Oh, wait, what if I got to face one of these too soon?
Or what if you got to face them live on this platform and they interrupt you? I mean, that's obviously a lot to kind of gather there. I'm curious, Will, watching from afar, watching Brett, your close personal friend, get a victory here and, start to move up the ranks here in UWA. Obviously, you've had a big match on your own that I'll certainly talk about in a little while, but when you're watching him from afar, and I know you want to make some noise here in UWA, seeing this here, what does it do for you?
To be honest, it motivates me to put on a lot better matches than I've had before. It gives me like an inner strength to keep going, and eventually I'm going to get some wins, even though I haven't had some recently. I'm sure I'm going to get wins eventually if I just keep going.
Absolutely. No question about that. And if you want to follow the UWA, you can do that here several different ways. And we also have a merchandise store, which we're going to put the link up here in a few minutes for. But first of all, in the meantime, Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, Underground Wrestling Alliance. You want to check out Brett. Brett's simple. Brett's on Instagram, Brett_Anderson_official. And you have the same thing. Well, maybe you guys made your own Instagrams for each other, but obviously it's a different conversation for a different time based on the link. But seeing here, we're about to see something here. And I mean, for you, Brett, watching a match like this in terms of dealing with an opponent like this, I know you have a lot of different opponents that you wrestle with. How much do you go back and watch a match like this?
Very often, actually. I constantly study to see what there is to improve on, what to watch out for, because after my match with Aaron Blaze at Destiny, I watched it back and I was like, okay, what do I need to watch out for? Okay, I need to watch out for his attacks in the corner.
Flying in the air.
Yeah, just.
Well, I'm going to get to Aaron Blaze. Don't you worry. I'm going to put that matchup on the screen, but definitely don't you worry about that. And, you obviously going up the ranks here, and you obviously there's a stunner there. Certainly, I won't tell James Taylor or Soldier GP you did a stunner, but obviously I'm sure one of them is here right now in the chat, and they just saw that. But obviously for you guys, let me ask you this question in a general sense: what does it mean to you guys to be a part of the UWA? Obviously, we know you've done some things in RWA, SVBW, obviously alongside JD Mercer and ET. I'll get to ET as well, but I mean, what does it mean to you guys to be a part of UWA?
To me, it meant everything, because it finally gives us the chance to show our full potential. Whenever we was told we had the chance to wrestle in the ring, we took it and we ran with it.
We jumped.
We took it and we ran with it. We given it our all so far, and we hopefully want to do it for years to come. It's just
I hope so too. You get to do it for years to come, because you guys have obviously been wrestling on ground and mat, and to make that transition, and UWA has it. I know it means a lot, and I know it's something that is a big step, and it can help your career and help prolong it, and it's also good for the audience, and people want to see you out there in a ring, and making the adjustment for you guys into a ring. What has that been like?
Night and day.
Yeah,
literally night and day.
I know nothing. I know nothing about wrestling. I know absolutely zero. And you obviously blocked the code breaker there. But what is it like? Then tell me why it's night and day.
Just for half of the things that we have done within the backyard, and half of the moves we've taken within the backyard. I mean, I've taken F5 after F5 from names such as Dustin Little,
Same.
And we have just landing on the canvas is a lot better than landing on the grass. It is.
Oh, I could imagine that. That I could imagine.
Oh my! And I felt the years taken off my career every time I land on the ground. But as for the ring, it just feels so much better because the ring is actually built properly. We tried what we could in RWA, but just UWA feels like a home ground to where we could actually grow to the wrestlers we needed to be, and it gave us the chance, and UWA gave us the chance to become stars, and they've helped us tremendously, and we're 100% proud to be part of it.
You're in a bigger platform. You're with a company that has almost 600 subscribers right now. You're in a company that, has had some really big names in its history. I mean, you have some great people here involved in it and such. And there's a lot of things I think that are very exciting about UWA. And to be here, it's also got to motivate you guys because you know that you're in a company that a lot more people are seeing you versus, let's say, when you were in places like your own Fed in RWA.
Yeah.
It was definitely, we wanted to travel at first for wrestling events. We was actually trying to collaborate at one point with the Abelmar Wrestling Federation over in North Carolina. We was going to try to collaborate with them with NRWA at some point, but we just never got it finalized. Never had it finalized to that point, and we was wanting to travel. It's just we didn't know where we could travel to. And once we heard we got the opportunity to wrestle in UWA, we finally just got to the point to where we knew we was getting to other places, and we started to schedule more and train more. And because I know safety is number one protocol, and
it's been a big topic on this platform. There's no question that you actually the man that interviewed you. Don't go look now on him, but he's obviously been a topic of that here is certainly, and obviously we want to make sure everybody's safe. Obviously, Jake addressed what happened with Dalton, and that's something that we want to make sure everybody goes out there safely. But I think that there are a lot of things that are worked upon, and I think everybody's trying the best they can. That's obviously the T Public page for the UWA store, and now that we see ET on the screen, obviously you know him very well. And what has he meant to you guys so far in your journey here? Because obviously he's a part of why you're here in UWA.
Well, for me, it's like he's a voice of wisdom, He's been around all these different companies. He's, he's been like the commentary basically, and he's been in the matches and everything. So
mentor to me.
Yeah, mentor to Brett. And he's just been the voice of wisdom, He's just been through just about all of it, as far as I can tell.
He is.
What advice has he given you guys since he's a mentor of yours? What has he done to kind of help you guys in terms of, go along on this journey?
Well, we've definitely struggled on the mic before then, but he's actually helped us along the way with trying to get us to put some emotion into it and just put that. Like I said, just put the emotion into the promo work that we've been trying to get better in over time. And ET has helped us a lot along the way, along the lines of promo work, because he's been the voice of SBVW for a long time. And if anybody could help us, we thought it'd be him because he's been in the wrestling associations for so long. And PCW, I think, Prestige Championship Wrestling years ago, he told us about them, and I didn't know that it was a channel that existed. And he showed us a few videos from there to where he was owner and everything. And his promo work in there was 100% part of his prime. And if anybody we thought that could help us, it was definitely him.
It's so important because if you can't speak, I always say it. I've interviewed a lot of pro wrestlers and a lot of them overseas in the UK. And a lot of these guys were some of the best performers in the entire country that would come onto this platform over the years. And they really wouldn't be able to sell themselves. And some guys, their philosophy is, well, I go out there and wrestle. And if I go out there and wrestle, that's all I need to do. But I always look at it as that by you talking, you're your own salesman. You're your own promoter. There's no better promoter. There's no better salesman than being a salesman for yourself. So if you can't go out there and talk, if you can't go out there and talk to the public and why they should invest in you and why they should, keep an eye on you and and tune in and support you, then honestly, you got nothing. It's kind of like I've worked in the world of politics, and there's an old expression in politics that if you don't have a base, if you don't have your own community, you got nothing. And it's kind of the same thing in wrestling in the sense that if you're not able to promote yourself, if you're not able to tell the audience, if you're not able to tell your opponent why you're going to defeat them or why you're going to do something that's basically going to as a reason why I should be invested in you, then nobody will invest in you. You'll have no support, and you really will just be in the dust bowl. But I think obviously having that experience is going to help you guys go a long way. And we're also now joined officially on the Promo Wrestling Federation YouTube page and also the Pride Wrestling Federation YouTube page, because obviously I own a portion of that. But I see Last Rites coming up on the screen here before I get into some other things, and this is something that's going to come up here in the next few weeks. We've got some big shows ahead in UWA. And just what do you look to do for you guys in order to be a part of those shows to have more success here in UWA?
To have more success, honestly, just keep putting in the work and keep grinding as hard as possible. Honestly, I've been trying left and right. We've been constantly training. It's been nonstop for the past about week. We've just been trying to keep conditioning, keep our bodies in shape, and
it has to be hard right now because most of this country right now is in a serious heat wave, and to even do anything like training wise or be outside, it's extremely difficult right now. So I mean, I can only imagine what the last week has been like. But then again, I would rather be dealing with this than the winter. But it's here nor there.
I'm not gonna lie, it's been miserable, but in the end, I know it's gonna be worth it because we know that's what we need to do to get ourselves somewhere up into the UWA because they believe in us. Well, we're going to make sure that we give them a reason to believe in us.
Absolutely. And I want to come back to that in a second, but I have a lot of people that would like to say hello, and I'd like to be able to get them up on the screen here. Want to say hello to one of my buddies, D'Angelo LaFlame. D'Angelo LaFlame, of course, I'm sure you guys have heard of him. He's literally everywhere, and he was in the Riot in the Ring for NEW a couple weeks ago, and he was also a part of this little thing called Summer Bash, which everybody seems to have had some type of role in. He was also in the AWL's Endgame over there in Alabama. He's been a part of TBW. He's been a part of his own company, Resurrection Wrestling, and I obviously think he'll be in other places. He'd like to say hello. Justin Parsley, who's, by the way, the PWF champion, but not the Mid-South one, but he's the other PWF champion, and he'd like to say hello, and he's the only 3-time Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer, and I'd like to say hello to Kat. They have definitely come a long way. Glad to see they're finally getting to live their dreams. What does that mean to you when you hear a comment like that?
That warms my heart to me.
That one we definitely take to heart. It's one of those. We've worked so hard for it for so many because I've been doing this for almost 4 years now. Will, you've been doing it for what, 6, I think, 6, 7? Yeah, it's something like that at this point.
That's to be in the yard for 4+ years, and you learn a lot. I mean, I think that you look back and, Brett, you said 4 years ago, so that means you started during COVID. I mean, that's kind of wild, right, to have started during COVID, and here you are, and, Will, you got a little bit more experience, but now you're starting to feel that you're becoming guys, even though you're still younger in age and still younger talents, that you guys are starting to gain that experience.
Yeah, honestly, it's definitely added on. The experience, we definitely are grateful to have it, especially whenever it even comes to the yard, because at some point, even if we did have to wrestle in the yard again, our bodies have basically tried to adapt to it, but once we
toughened up a little bit,
it's definitely toughened us up to an extent to where it's not as bad in the yard as it used to be first starting out. My first match ever was in SVBW against Logan Price.
Oh, I know Logan Price. That's a tough one.
Oh my! I faced him for the Valor title, and oh my, that ripcord elbow.
Well, you might have been feeling that one for a little while, but that's the UWA YouTube link. We'll come back to that, plus the T Public store. I want to say hello to the man that hosted Summer Bash that everybody's talking about, Mr. Darkron himself. He's also the newest member of ROEW, which Mr. Howell talked about. He would like to work with ROEW. He spoke about that on the end of Monday's show. We'll have to see if that certainly comes to fruition. Want to say hello to one of my buddies out there, who I guess sort of is a part of XCW. He's a streamer, but I know him as Michael Blackheart. He's obviously here. He he'd like to say hello to you guys. Zilla is kind of like our resident bot. I'm sure if you've watched these shows, Zilla is always a product of these shows, and she just kind of says the same things to every guest that comes on. So we say hello, Zilla, and obviously Mr. Hal is here himself, and he had praised you, Mr. Anderson, a little bit on Monday's show, and obviously he'd like to say that I agree that you guys are the future, and I think it's interesting because it's a very difficult landscape in UWA. You know, Aaron Blaze is the Heritage Champion. You got Chase Sullivan, a man you guys certainly I know have no love for, is the Southern Champion. You've had history with him, Brett, quite a bit. CJ is the World Champion, and you know you've got Sammy Slade, who's the #1 contender. We spoke about the headshot Jay Cal, and I mean you got some really, really good talents here. Bulletproof JD Mercer, a man that you know from SVBW. I mean, there's some really, really good talents here in UWA, and it's very competitive. And oh, by the way, Tristan Taylor is back, and he's the #1 contender. I mean, this is a really, really good roster you're a part of now. You're going to have to be able to make headway against these big names I just mentioned.
That's one thing that I definitely have tried to work on myself is I want to be different from everybody else. That's one thing that I've automatically went towards too. And I do appreciate Jay Cal for praising me on Monday. That meant everything to me. That honestly did.
Because obviously, you know what? You're here, and it was a nice little segue, and I'm sure that you're as happy about it, and I'm sure Jake is happy to see you here. Will is well, and Will, well, it's kind of the same thing, but I definitely am excited to have UWA coverage coming up here. Let me say hello to some more people here before I come back to some different things. Soldier GP, of course, who is one of the co-owners of the other PWF, and he is the IMF World Champion, and he'll be here next Thursday because we have a whole IMF show coming up. We're going to have a slew of things coming up. He's actually wrestling his son, who's also a second-generation wrestler, and I'm going to leave that for next Thursday, but he'd like to say hello, guys. Yeah, it's always weird when you have the father-son matches, and then, you know, that one's really personal right now, but I'll leave that for next week's show. We're obviously trying to stay on the same page right now. The champion is here. Will, I bring him up. Will, you wrestled CJ, and what was that experience like, and what would you like to say to the champion?
Oh, Lord.
I know we're live in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where wrestling matters. I know you're nervous, but trust me, the only person that should be nervous is yours truly, because I'm here every single day, and there is hundreds upon hundreds of people each day on the platform that would love to see me say something that makes me look like a complete idiot, because I do that anyway every time. So don't feel too bad. As Sean Adams would famously say, let your heart not be troubled. Let your heart not be troubled. You are live. What would you like to say to CJ?
Well, to CJ, I would just like to say I appreciate him giving me the opportunity to face him in the ring. I mean, that was one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunity kind of matches for me. I mean, facing somebody in his caliber, it was a dream come true for me. I loved every bit of that match. Even though I was partially injured throughout the whole match, I still managed to pull off a pretty good match, in my opinion, which I'd say other people probably tell you the same thing. But as far as CJ goes, I have all the respect in the world for him. I appreciate everything he and Jake and all them have done for me.
And his run has been so impressive. He's been champion for over a year, and he's done it against some of the very best right now. And obviously, I'll leave the topic of the Midwest Mafia aside for a second. But, Will, what did you learn then from that experience wrestling a guy like CJ?
I guess I learned to be ready for anything, no matter what opponent you face, whether it's CJ or Jake or anybody. I mean, you just got to be ready for whatever happens. But he caught me off guard a few times in that match. I will say that. I came close, but I gave him my all, and that's all I can do, man.
Did you get any advice from him afterwards?
Just to keep working hard like I have been, and everything will go great.
Would you one day hope to get another chance to step in the ring with him?
Oh, yes. And by then, I'm sure I'll be 100%.
Well, that's always good to know. And what are your thoughts then on Tristan Taylor and CJ? Tristan Taylor obviously just signed you guys along with Dimitri Green and PWF Mid-South, but What do you think about that? I mean, rather interesting match there. Tristan Taylor comes in, all of a sudden gets a title shot, and Sammy Slade, a lot of people feel should be it. He's the co-jamboree winner. He's a man that's been really red hot right now, but he didn't get the shot. He's got this open challenge. But what do you think? What happens there between Tristan Taylor and CJ for the world title?
I'm not sure, to be completely honest with you. Just all that going on, who knows? Maybe it'll be a triple threat for the title, for all we know. But
interesting. Are you
that
saying
would be my guess?
That'd be your guess? Okay. You ever thought of Brett, on that? Anything you want to say on Taylor and CJ? What do you think happens there?
So I feel like Slade should be in that slot instead of Tristan Taylor because he did earn his way to the championship. He earned it at the Jamboree.
FD3, he wasn't pinned.
I mean, that is correct. He technically was not pinned at FD3. He was not. So I mean, I feel like he deserves to get his one-on-one championship match sooner than Tristan Taylor does. I feel like Tristan Taylor should honestly go after the winner after CJ and Sammy Slade.
It's a good point. That's actually a good point. I mean, that would make a lot more sense. I mean, obviously, ET has kind of talked a little bit about it on Newsflash, and you can see it on the Underground Wrestling Alliance YouTube page. Sammy Slade has an open challenge. So, I mean, I'm not going to ask you, Brett, if you're going to actually answer the call. It'd probably be smart of you not to do that, but considering what Sammy Slade's run has been on. But you have any inclination? Who will actually answer that? Who do you think will answer that challenge?
Well, I definitely know that I probably will not, because that path of destruction, I do not want to be a victim to Sammy Slade right now.
Advice of. So I'm glad that great minds think alike there. But somebody, for whatever reason, will answer that challenge. I have no idea why they would, but I guess somebody will, I suppose.
Somebody will eventually.
I'm not exactly sure who. There might be a name or two that might. I mean, I predict, honestly, probably Chase Sullivan.
Really?
Honestly, Sullivan. Because he's the one who sparked the fire originally at the Jamboree, which Sammy Slade lost his title at, the Southern Heavyweight Championship.
Interesting. It's an interesting... I hadn't thought about that, because obviously we was so worked up into this whole thing with Jake and Chase on Monday's show, and that's obviously they had a match at Anniversary 3 and ended in a no contest, and also had this black and white thing after the match that was a no contest. And what did you guys make of that before I get to some more comments? That was rather interesting, and ET kind of talked about that a little bit on Newsflash. I mean, what do you make of that?
I'm not exactly sure who it is, but I did recognize the mask in the first video. I 100% believe it was Pogo, but as ET announced earlier today, Pogo was no longer part of the roster, so that marks him out. So I'm not sure who else would be.
And didn't ET not say that it would be somebody that we didn't know? That's what it's kind of right now in terms of trying to get to the bottom. It's somebody that I think we don't know at the moment currently.
I believe so. Yeah. I think ET said in the video that we don't know, that it is someone new to the roster, and I'm not exactly sure who it would be at all. If it's not Pogo, your guess is as good as mine, honestly.
And to confirm, it's not you guys, obviously. So, I mean, just...
No,
nothing.
I got to ask the question. There's people out there that might actually want to know. And if you want to follow Will, you can actually do that because he's just on Instagram now, finally. And he's got an Instagram page, and you can check it out right here. And I just followed him on Instagram, and that's his page. So make sure you check him out. And we're going to take this back off the screen. I want to get to some more comments because people want to talk to you. Want to say hello to my buddy James Taylor, of course, the owner of ROEW. He's got a new channel where he's playing some music, almost like he's trying to go into Sirius XM territory. He says, hello, gentlemen. And Kat wants to say, yeah, 80s and 90s. I live close to Brett and Will. Okay. Well, Brett talks about it a lot. To him, though, I'm Alex because he knew me before I started going by Kat. So you know an Alex?
Yeah, I do. It's actually my girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Well, how you doing there to your girlfriend? I hope your girlfriend's enjoying the conversation. I hope your girlfriend's enjoying this podcast more than the last one you did. I would hope so. Right?
She didn't watch that one.
I would say to your better half, don't watch it. Just whatever you do, just forget it. one that's in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, really the only one that matters here. And if you haven't yet got a chance, give me a sub because I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. But let me get to some more comments before I come back to Mr. Blaze. Just popped in to support them since Brett has been excited. Yes, you have been, and I wanted to get you on. I know we were supposed to do it last week, but unfortunately I had a scheduling conflict. But it was, I think, better the way it worked out now because 2 reasons. Anniversary 3 just came out. Jake was here, and we had this whole ET news flash. So we actually had some stuff in the last 2 days to talk about UWA land. So it wasn't like when you did that podcast, whatever it was, and it was like, it was like weird. It was just, a lot of just awkwardness. They say the worst thing in radio is awkwardness. For 7 months, I was on a radio show and I would screen calls and I would be like this, talking to obviously somebody through the camera or even an actual call. And they say the worst thing live is awkwardness. And in that interview, there was tons of I can promise you, you're with a professional, an actual trained professional. Yes, I am actually trained to do this. He meant to say hello to you guys, so that's okay. James is a busy man. I have a lot of Aaron Blaze, so let me start running up the Aaron Blaze comments. First of all, Aaron Blaze wants to give me time to put the matchup here on the screen between you and Aaron Blaze so I can get your opinions on Aaron Blaze. So thank you very much for the Aaron Blaze. Obviously is a good buddy of mine, and I want to put the matchup between that. Well, it gives me a minute here to do that. I have it right here in front of me because that's the magic of technology. And here we go. Oh, there we go. That's the one here. Well, no, that's let me put it the right way. So I will do that here. We'll put it up on the screen in a second. Let me get to some more Aaron Blaze and ask your opinions. My honest opinion, I don't think either Slade or Tristan deserves a world title shot. Slade earned his way and lost. No rematch clause involved. So why the heck? First of all, what do you guys think of that comment? It's an interesting take from Mr. Blaze before I start asking you about your match with Aaron Blaze. I'm going to put it right up on the screen here. What do you guys make of that?
Slade didn't properly lose his chance. I mean, he hasn't had a one-on-one with CJ as he should. Because honestly, after I was eliminated from the Jamboree, I was watching from the back, and I was like, Slade's got this thing. Slade's got this in the bag. And then him and Skull go both at the same time. I'm like, damn. I've never seen this before. Co-winners for the Tennessee Jamboree. That's interesting.
That's different.
We talked about that yesterday on Sportswire. We had on Cato, the controversial one, the Deathmatch Werewolf, Mac 10, the landlord of Sportswire, because they're a part of this All Wrestling Matters hardcore tournament hosted by our friends over at NEW. And I know Jake has had a lot of nice things to say about them, and they've really been just so remarkable to work with here on this platform. And we were talking about co-winners, and I brought up, the Royal Rumble in 1994. It's the 30th anniversary this year of Bret Hart and Lex Luger actually being co-Royal Rumble winners. Although technically, if you went back and watched it, they said famously that it was Lex Luger who touched first, but that's the magic of technology and such. But you had some co-winners before. Chyna and Chris Jericho were co-Intercontinental champions. But there's Mr. Blaze here. And, I'm curious, Brett, as I run through some Aaron Blaze comments in a second, talk to me about wrestling a guy that, really, I would say right now at the moment is the marquee traveling wrestler. I mean, Jack Delta, obviously everybody knows him. Yes, he was here in UWA. He was a Heritage champion, but Jack hasn't really traveled as much this year as he's done in previous years. He had a little bit of a stint in VTW for a little while this year and a cup of coffee in XCW. I'm not even going to bring up XCW at the moment when it comes to that, but he's really made his home this year in his home state, 5 minutes away from his house in ROEW, but it's been Aaron. Aaron's the guy that's been really the one that's traveled. Him and D'Angelo LaFlame, they're the really guys that have probably put the most smiles in this year. But, for you, Brett, what's that experience like in wrestling and Aaron Blaze?
Well, before this, I actually messaged Aaron Blaze a little bit before, and I was talking to him about his I think it was over on one of his shows on YBW, and I was telling him how great he was doing. I said, I love the work. It's honestly phenomenal. And I told him I'd love to share the ring with him one day. And just about a month later, I was told I was facing him at UWA Destiny. I was like, oh, and he just came in and won
the Heritage title there, which obviously Tristan Taylor was the champion for, and he beat Jake Howe there. I mean, he's obviously a guy that comes in here, and he's got a reputation. It's almost like you're talking to him on Instagram, and all of a sudden you're wrestling him. I mean, how were you able to separate that?
It was very difficult to separate it. I'm not going to lie. It was he was wonderful to wrestle. I loved wrestling him. he showed me there is not just one style of wrestling. There's not just Japanese strong style. There's not just submission specialist. There is multiple, and he is all in one. He is no one-trick pony. He honestly,
That's for sure.
it would not surprise me by the beginning of next year if he didn't win the Tennessee Jamboree to go to Final Destination to become UWA World Champion. It would not surprise me one bit, and I'd love to see him do it.
It's funny you said that. I couldn't agree with you more. I think Aaron Blaze, to me, the sky is the limit. I think if he wants to, he could be the UWA World Champion because he's got a very good shot to win the ROEW World title on Friday. And he's the Heritage Champion now, but if he wants to, he could be the UW.
I could definitely see it. Absolutely,
I can see it too.
He has earned his stripes for a long time. I mean, he was wrestling in UWA during his first run whenever he was 16 years old. I didn't even start wrestling until I was 18, and this kid runs.
It's funny you said that. He's 19 and he's already wrestled in 19 companies. So I mean, this is a guy who's been on this earth for 19 years, and although he hasn't done it obviously for 19 years, but he's wrestled in a company per year in his lifespan. Think about that.
Right.
That's fast. That's so fascinating.
It shows what passion he has for the sport. He's wanting to be the best out there. And all my respect goes out towards him because he is 100%. He is guaranteed a future of the Underground Wrestling Alliance. Guarantee it. I mean,
I think he's the future. I think he's guaranteed to be on the Mount Rushmore of the entire backyard, the underground wrestling circuit. I mean, this young man, I think, and I will continue to say it till the cows come home, is that he has gotten I will say it because I can say anything I want. He has gotten, I think, a bad reputation at times, but they don't know the journey that this young man has gone on. They don't know what this young man has done to move mountains for companies like UWA. XCW, his own promotion when he's done there. And he's gone to places and he has gone out and made those companies noticeable. He has gone out there and increased engagements with those companies. Look at this relationship we have with UW. That's because of Aaron Blaze. I knew him in XCW and he did a lot for XCW. And XCW they dropped the ball with him. I will say it till the cows come home on that, but that's a different show for a different time. But the point is that this guy has been in some big places, and he is a marquee draw. He is a marquee name, and I think that in my mind, his last 3 or 4 months has been the best work of his career because he's going in places like UWA, wrestling Jake, wrestling JD Mercer. We're going to see what happens with Delta, who was a former UWA star, coming up here on Friday. And I really think right now Aaron Blaze is the present and the future of this circuit. I think that to me, there's no question if this young man wants to do this till he's, who knows how long, they're going to basically put him at the top of the Mount Rushmore if that's something he wants to do.
I believe it 100%. He has potential to be, honestly, the greatest of all time if he really wanted to be.
I mean, he might start this Friday if he defeats Jack Delta, a man who was the Heritage Champion who fell short against CJ. Some people may very well say that Aaron Blaze will dispatch Jack Delta in the Mount Rushmore. Some people will say that Aaron Blaze, he'll be the greatest of all time. Some people have said this is the greatest match between two traveling wrestlers in this circuit's history. I mean, arguably, Jack Delta was the one first to travel, and Aaron Blaze is the one that's kind of been the one that's had that torch passed to him. D'Angelo the Flame is right behind him. But there's no question that there has been talk that this match between Blaze and Delta, in addition to it being two Heritage champions, one former, one current, that this could be a match to decide who's the greatest traveling wrestler in our circuit.
I 100% agree. I feel like he will be on the Mount Rushmore, if not the number one backyard traveling wrestler there ever is. I mean, he is an absolute talent. He is probably the greatest to ever grace a ring as of right now within the underground circuit.
19 and the frequent flyer miles or the miles he's put in. I mean, he's 19, right? I mean, I was 19. I wasn't traveling to Tennessee to wrestle. I wasn't going out there to travel to Indiana. I wasn't going to Ohio. He's done all that already. Did it on his own. I mean,
It surprised me very well once I learned more about him. I was like, this kid's been wrestling since he was 15, 16 years old. And he's traveled more than I have in my entire life. And I've been on this earth for almost 22 years now.
I got news for you. He's probably traveled more than me in my life. And a lot of people I know. I mean, he's garnered more miles than people that are 60, 70, and 80 years old. I mean, I'm serious because of where he's gone. He went out there to wrestle. It's amazing. Guys like him, guys like D'Angelo the Flame, guys like Jack Delta who've gone out there and done the traveling. It's just amazing to me. Guys like Omen Black and Soldier GP who've now done the traveling work, and guys like Anthony Steele, guys that have gone out there and done the traveling. I think it's just remarkable in what they've done. And we're watching this match here. And let me get to some more comments from Mr. Blaze. As for Taylor, he has an actual rematch, so why is he ducking me? He talks all this talk about wanting a match, yet he's coming back after a whole other person because Tristan Taylor was the Heritage Champion. That's kind of how Aaron Blaze walked in here. It's kind of funny if you think about it. I mean, to be honest, if anybody should be involved with the World Championship implications, it should be me. Ever since my return, I've been undefeated in one-on-one matches. I kind of alluded to that. I'm the closest person to being a Grand Slam Infinity winner, winning a championship from every single branch of it. Hell, I'm facing Jack Delta this Friday. I've done so many other things. Do I need to keep going? Started at 12, but who's counting? I said 13, but close enough. But the point is that, I mean, Aaron Blaze is a guy that certainly, Brett, you have to gain so much for. So I'm watching this match here, and I know you've watched it before a few times. The match is a couple of months old, but if I could, for the audience, what advice has Aaron given to you after this match to help you improve and continue this momentum you've garnered in UWA?
Always stay alert. Always stay alert.
You've talked about that throughout the evening. Will talked about the same thing in the CJ match, not staying alert.
It's just he has shown me how much passion he genuinely has for the sport. For as much as he's put his body through, for as much as he travels, it honestly inspires me to want to do the same thing. I mean, I want to do very close to the same thing. It's amazing.
I ask you that question, and I know you're a part of SVBW. I'll get to that in a few minutes in RWA, but I mean, where would you like to travel? I know we're going to see you guys in PWF Mid-South. You're the newest signed members of the roster, but are there other places you would like to go, the two of you?
That's a good question.
I try to ask you questions here. This is not like the other podcast Brett did. I can assure you that.
Yeah, thank you. At some point, and I've talked to Will about this before, BYCW.
That's a good one. It's
on the other side of Tennessee, but it's still within the state, and it's definitely someone we can trust. Ran by Dalton Skull. I love Dalton to death. Just there's nothing bad you can say about the guy. If you try to say something bad about him,
Dalton's to me the most popular band in the circuit.
I agree.
Agreed.
It's within our area. It's definitely, but in my personal opinion, it's definitely between him and Aaron Blaze. 100% within our area.
I think Aaron Blaze, listen, I have an affinity, quote unquote, an affinity for Aaron Blaze to kind of steal what our championships are here. But Aaron is definitely, I think, right. Him and Dalton, you couldn't go wrong with him or Dalton. And I think BYCW is a great place. And they just had a show earlier today, which killed it. And I think that would be great. We get to see more of you and Dalton. It's a great idea. And we're seeing this match all unfold here. And we're here again on Sportswire Radio with the shooter Brett Anderson and the rising angel Will Jackson. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice. Figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. And if you're here on sportswireradio.org, we are an internet radio station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We play music. We simulcast these shows. We also have wrestling. We have other sports podcasts. You have a podcast. You'd like to be on the radio, let me know. Also, hit the sub button for us on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579. I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers. I'd like to get a tattoo if I get 1,000 subscribers, but I think at this point, how long it's taking me, I might just settle in making a charitable contribution, but you never say never at this point. But obviously, we'll see. Maybe I'll get to 1,000 subscribers in real no time. But in the meantime, we are here, and please support our friends over at the UWA Underground Wrestling Alliance on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. So make sure you support them on all those platforms. And there you're watching a move like this. I mean, Aaron moves as good as anybody. Let me ask you guys this question, though, for you guys both individually. What are your goals here in UWA?
For me, Heritage Championship. As Jake said on Monday, he does see me becoming Heritage Champion. That is definitely one of my goals. Because whenever I first wrestled him for the Heritage Champion, and he told me how he feels on it, it's for the heritage of wrestling, as in technical wrestling, such as Bret Hart's my childhood hero, Blue Fez.
You're sort of named after him, only with one more initial.
I am actually named after him. My father told me that a couple years ago. He looked at me and he just said, I wanted to name you exactly after Bret Hart, but I didn't feel like it was needed, so I put an extra T in there. I was like,
I was up with that. Obviously the investigative journalism from the last podcast, you wouldn't have thought to ask that, but yeah, what a small world. I mean, I was just named after my dad, but you were named after arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. I mean, arguably the man that, when you think about technical wrestling, I mean, he literally, was born in a wrestling. You want to talk about Tristan Taylor is one thing, but obviously Bret Hart is, to this day, there are people out there that talk about him as their influence. So, I mean, that's, obviously speaks volumes. And Mr. Blaze obviously won. And I kind of think the Heritage title is your version of the Intercontinental title. I kind of think it is that workhorse title. It is that title that I think you use in a way as being the best wrestler in the company. And I think that that's obviously why you'd want that title. And so who do you guys think wins then? Mikey Reedy or Aaron Blaze? I mean, he made quite a impact there at Anniversary 3 after JD Mercer. What do you guys think on that?
So whenever I faced Mikey before, this man is an absolute madman. He has put me through absolute hell as a competitor. He definitely can be Aaron Blaze, but the fact of the matter is, can he keep up with Aaron Blaze? Aaron Blaze could. Oh my! There's just not much needed to say whenever it comes to Aaron Blaze and Mikey Reedy. Mikey Reedy definitely can.
Aaron Blaze is Aaron Blaze. I mean, there's nobody like him. I mean, listen. I mean, he is a dream wrestler to wrestle. There's very few people, that you want to say I want to wrestle, and he's that guy. Mikey's obviously had some success, and he beat up Aaron after a match, but one-on-one is a different thing, and we'll have to see what happens for sure when it comes to that. I want to ask you guys for the remaining thing about a couple different things. First of all, RWA is something that you guys have obviously been a part of, and I know there's an anniversary, unfortunately, of an unfortunate passing a year ago. It was John Ransky, I believe it was, and talk to me about what he meant to you guys and just what his impact was in your careers.
So John was with us at the very beginning. Well, he was definitely with me at the very beginning. I think he was there with you. Oh yeah. John was there with me at the very beginning. Another one of my first matches at the first show I ever did for SWW. He was in a tag match with me, and I think it was actually against Jared Black and Logan Paul.
Well,
Jared Black.
I think I know Jared Black. Yeah, I think that name's come up before. It came up on Monday's show, actually. Yes, he came up on Monday's show. Yes. Yeah, he had something going with the Black Bible, and I was like, why? It questioned me very certainly. But John was someone that he was definitely someone that you could always get a laugh out of. He would say the most random things, and one of his main lines was, I feel pretty. I feel pretty. Dear Lord.
All it takes is that one phrase, and everybody just forgets what they're doing.
Yeah, and sometimes whenever we would have bonfires sometimes every other weekend in the summer over at the RWA filming grounds, and sometimes you'd see him late night dancing right in front of the bonfire. He was definitely somebody you could always get a laugh out of. But to us, he was basically a brother. We got really close to him his final years, and he was more than just a team player for RWA. just about the heart and soul. Genuinely, he was. He almost carried it to an extent. He just about carried it, especially whenever he helped out with the ring 100%. Me and him was out there, and he was like, "Come on, let's go to Lowe's. Let's go buy some stuff for a ring." I said, I look at him. I'm just like, "John, we don't need a ring right now." He's just like, "I said, let's go." And we get to Lowe's about 20 minutes later. And I look at the receipt he paid for it. It's like almost $1,100. I'm like, "John, you're insane."
Over $1,000 he spent. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I'm just like, "You're working at a gas station. How do you got this much money?" I was like,
well, I guess it really meant so much to him. I know people on this platform joke, well, I mean, with me, people would say that'll be my lunch money, but but for him, he believed in you guys so much. And I know it's a sore subject, and I'll come back to UWA to end the show in a few minutes, but how much do you guys think about him?
A lot.
There's almost not a single day I can go thinking about him. It's just, he had passion for the sport like no other. His passion was as great as Aaron Blaze's, because he wanted to travel as well. He wanted to travel just like we did, and it's just, without him, like when we made him our first Nitro champion, and because I wanted him to be first Nitro champion, I talked to everybody else about it. I said, "Look, John didn't have to do this. I feel like we should show our appreciation 100%. I feel like he should beat me for the Nitro championship to be first." And everybody else agreed, and just the rest is history from there. And his last match that was ever filmed was with Hunter Becker, and that still hurts Hunter to this day. I talked to Hunter about that about a week after his passing. I said, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, "No, I feel like it's my fault." And I'm just like, "No, dude, it's not. John wouldn't blame you." But I said, if anything, John wants to keep going, and we're going to try to keep going for as long as we possibly can. 100%. I mean, John was the reason why RWA got off the ground as much as it did. That's why it's over 150 subscribers right now.
It's 161 because I gave you 2 subs. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
But, that's heavy, though, to go through that. And do you feel like in some ways you guys are fighting for him? This journey you're on, are you doing it in a little way for his memory? If that is a question I can ask you guys.
To an extent, yes.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. He was the reason we wanted to keep going. And because he told me a couple weeks before everything went down, he told me he wanted me to be his last opponent. And that brought tears to my eyes, because I didn't know, because that made me think. I was like, "John, why are you bringing this up?" Because he talked about the things he was wanting to do in later years in his life, and he was talking about it right then and there, and something just didn't seem right. But whenever he told me that meant everything to me. That meant that he believed in me, and he knew I could be something one day. And I wanted to prove to him that he can always count on me, that I would always be there, and that I'm always going to be someone that he can believe in.
But that's got to be heavy. You guys are still young men, and to go through something like that with him and his passing, it's never easy when we lose someone and someone that we love, but you guys are still young, and to go through that, it's got to be with heavy hearts. The only thing you can do is go forward and try to honor his memory. And if you'd like to follow the RWA, I'd actually like to put the link up here right for everybody here. And it's a small organization named after Bobby Rudda. And also you can check out information if you want to get in touch with Brett, you can here. And it's RWA 3411. So make sure you support them and support the Alliance. You'll see a lot of stuff actually with Brett and Will in the past, and you'll see some stuff there and different things, and go out there and support them. And most importantly, support these guys, as they're a huge part of things upcoming in PWF Mid-South, the 2 latest signees, and a huge part of things in UWA. Let me ask you guys, before I come up to an important question from Mr. Howell toward the end of the show in a few minutes, but SVBW, I mean, tell us about some of the things you've accomplished there for the audience.
SVBW, it was definitely it was
a ride.
It was definitely a ride, and for the most part, I enjoyed it.
I didn't.
And even though the show came to a close, and whenever the hardcore scramble match, oh dear God, Germ Ephobe, the Eagle, all of them, El Diablo. Good God, what was ET thinking?
I don't know.
Like,
was he even thinking at all?
I don't know.
That's a question ET is going to probably ponder and go, did they just say that live or they just did? So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, we just did.
What? I definitely had to take some time off of YouTube after that match. That was definitely something, especially with some things that the Eagle said during the match. My Lord. But SVBW was definitely, I think, is what gave me the fire under my ass that I needed to get going as a superstar, because they gave me a chance to run with the Valor Championship at the Dark Wolves Crown Championship tournament, and I pinned Mikey Reedy for it. Obviously, it was help from JD Mercer, and that honestly, it meant the world to me whenever I first won it. And I was told for the first defense I was doing, that I'd be facing all foe, as in Hunter Becker. I love Hunter to death. We've had multiple bouts together. And
he's been a part of that company as well, so you have some crossover with Hunter there as well.
Oh, he is, and he cashed in on Jeremy Foe for the World Heavyweight title. Why do we make that damn thing World Champion? Good
I
God.
don't know.
Well, that's one of those. Maybe they'll do a Vice special on him. Why did we do this? Kind of like who killed WCW? We'll go back and look at the history of RWA and SVBW. We'll go, why did we make those moves? And ET will be there, and JD Mercer will still have a Cincinnati Reds hat on. You guys will be like, why do we still do it? And then we'll still never know the answer.
That's fair. And Hunter Becker right now is currently RWA World Champion, and we intend to make his run pretty good, because he is a solid champion. He's been multiple time world champions in other promotions. He's been a couple times world champion, a couple times at SVBW, ACBW, his own show, and GSBW, Glade Spring Backyard Wrestling. Glade Spring Backyard Wrestling was around for a couple years, and then it fell off for some reason. We don't even know exactly why.
That's a common thing in the yard. You know, you're a company, you're functioning for a couple years, and all of a sudden things happen, and you're wondering who's got control of the library.
Yeah, honestly, but SVBW, I feel like, was the reason why we was able to get to the UWAs, because
I was going to say the same thing, because we know the relationship. We spoke a little bit about that, I think, in prior shows, and even here at the top. I mean, obviously JD, ET, you guys being a part of that company helps you get to a platform in a big way in UWA, in a growing company. And I think that's a credit, to ET. You've talked about the relationship there, and I think that it leads you here. So at the end of the day, being in these companies, this is what it's also about, open collaboration. This is what it's about. All wrestling matters. And I think seeing relationships like Infinity, seeing things with SVBW and UWA, seeing RWA with you guys in SVBW, Aaron Blaze, right? YBW, that relationship with UWA. I think these are things that this is what brings the community together. All too often we hear on Sportswire, oh, somebody shot, somebody said, but the facts are is that this is living proof of collaboration. This is living proof of working together. Dalton Skull's got BYCW. BYCW has obviously been a part of things here in UWA. These are things that are for the greater good. So these are things that are actually the definition of all wrestling matters. And I think that this is, at the end of the day, no matter what the situation was, it's led you to improving. It's led you to where you are today and being here on this platform as well, I think.
Honestly, yeah, and we're 100% proud to be part of it. I mean, even technically we are part of the Infinity stuff, I guess, because where PWF is a part of Infinity and PWF Mid-South is, and UWA is as well. And if we did travel to BYCW, we'd be there as well. And we're 100% proud to be part of it. I mean, we're amazed that we're even a part of this community, and I'm grateful to be part of this community.
Same.
it's just.
And I'm happy you guys are here, and I'm happy you guys are here tonight to have a proper interview. I'm happy that we're getting a chance to hear your story. This is what it's about. Doing things to allow people to have their voice heard, giving people a chance that they can be shown in a way that's a productive way. And I think that there's a lot of great things that have been done in UWA. And I think that people are trying. I think there's a lot of things that, we can go home and feel good about. All too often we hear things and we just hear the negative. But I mean, this is an example of everybody doing something to improve themselves. So the SVBW guys like yourself going into UWA, RWA, SVBW. I would think about Dalton and BYCW, and I think the Infinity relationship, PWF Mid-South being a part of you guys with UWA. I think these are just a lot of things that really connect to people, and obviously these are things I'm excited about in the future. And, in the interest of time, I got a couple of questions first of all, one's from Jake. He'd like to say, never had the pleasure to meet John, but I've heard nothing but good things about him. May he rest in peace. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. But this is a pressing one, which I want to get to before closing thoughts. Brett and Will are two of the best people in our company, very passionate, but they need to be a team. And we heard a little bit about teams on Monday's show, and he puts that eyeball emoji there, and that's the thing that really caught my attention. They need to be a team. The shooter, Brett Anderson, the rising angel, Will Jackson. Do you guys need to be a team in the UWA?
Sounds pretty good to me.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
That'd be fun.
You'd love to, huh? And I can
especially
see a UWA tag team division coming up there. Interesting.
I mean, technically, me and you have not been a team before.
Well, we heard the announcements about the UWA Tag Team Championships becoming a thing.
Platform, actually.
Yeah, I was watching the podcast and Jake announced it. I was like, well, Tag Team Championships does sound like a great idea. Never fought for them. Hopefully we get the chance to fight for them here. But I didn't expect it.
Each other right now in SVBW, you guys could be fighting aligned. And what better team would be in guys that know each other as well as you do? And if you think about tag teams in UWA, I mean, we know Dirty South is back, but they're occupied. The Mafia's future is just, to me, I think, in utter chaos and dissension. I mean, Aaron Blaze isn't exactly a tag team wrestler. So these could be tailor-made championships for you. Almost could have the names of the shooter, Brett Anderson, and the rising angel, Will Jackson, on them. Maybe these titles were built for you.
Possibly.
I'd love to earn the championships, honestly. I mean, I've never fought for tag team championships before, but I mean, I'll be damned. It might be the first, but it sure as hell won't be the last.
It'd be at least a first for us, if anything.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a first for us, and I'd be grateful to be UWA Tag Team Champions.
I'm all for it.
And they always remember the first. They always remember who's the first champion. It's always the first one's the one that everybody remembers. Everybody after that, they'll remember him, sure. But to be the first of any sort, the first UWA Tag Team Champions, boy, it's a pretty impressive thing.
Right. And whenever it comes to the Dirty South and the Midwest Mafia, I don't have anything against the Midwest Mafia. Hopefully they do get everything situated. But, oh my, yeah, it is in complete and utter chaos. But the Dirty South, I have to agree with Aaron Blaze. Why do they call it the Dirty South?
I don't know if that's something I want to talk about or elaborate on the air. I mean, obviously, you guys have to share a locker room with those guys. I'm not quite sure why or what that might be. I mean, I guess maybe their tactics are dirty, and that's why they want to win titles, I suppose. I don't want to get into the hygiene question. After all,
that's a good way to think about
it. That's the only logical reason I could think about, and I hope that is the reason. I hope Aaron Blaze isn't right.
Well, I'll tell you what. Not that I really want to do this, but I'm sure that Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Taylor will be on Sportswire in the next few weeks, and I suppose I'll ask that question. I'll certainly suppose I'll do that. I mean, I don't know if I really want to, but if you'd like to instead buy some merchandise, we have the UWA store, which is now officially up on TeePublic, and you got some deals here. You got the UWA logo, red and white, $16, pretty damn good deal. CJ shirt, Tristan Taylor's shirts on sale. You got the UWA logo. You got some other things here in the store. You got Chase Sullivan. I don't know why is there more Chase Sullivan shirts than him, but we got a Brett Anderson shirt. That's a good one. You got JD Mercer, obviously.
Got the Eagle.
In the house. You got some really, really good shirts here. BYCW merchandise is on here. You got just a lot of great things that you want to select to support the UWA. Definitely do that. And it goes a long way in helping the UWA succeed and grow. And I always tell everybody that all I wear these days is wrestling shirts. So everything in my wardrobe is a wrestling shirt. And I'm sure in the next few weeks, I'm going to add a UWA shirt to the wardrobe. Because after all, I have pretty much everybody else's shirt. Now that you guys have a merchandise store, it means that I need to go join because you guys are a regular part of the rotation here on Sportzwire Radio. So make sure you go out and support the merchandise. Go out and support the cause. It's about all wrestling matters. We want to help everybody succeed. And also, if you want to support the UWA before we get to closing thoughts, you can check them out here. That's their links. They are also a part of Threads, Facebook, Instagram. Brett and Will are on Instagram. Check them out. They're also the newest members of the PWF Mid-South roster. Okay, so before I get to closing thoughts, let me ask you guys this question each. What do you want to say to the people that have heard you for the first time and why they should support you on this journey you're about to go on, which is going to reach bigger and better things, whether it's your growth in UWA, but is also now a part of the PWF Mid-South roster?
Well, if you don't believe in us now, we'll definitely give you something to believe in.
I agree.
And that is, honestly, now that I think about it, since you and I probably are a team now, your new UWA Tag Team Champions.
Oh! You want to talk about mic drop? You want to talk about bombshells? We started the show off with the bombshell announcement, but it sounds to me like they call him the shooter, Brett Anderson, for a reason, right? But it looks like he called his own shot, ladies and gentlemen. He called his shot that he's going to be one half of the first ever UWA Tag Team Champions. And that's going to come sooner rather than later. And the Rising Angel, Will Jackson, when he's back out there in UWA, he's going to be the other half. And they always remember who's the first of anything. And boy, what a way to make an impact in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit in 2024 by being the first ever UWA Tag Team Champions. We've got some great stuff ahead in UWA. Last Rites is going to be out later this month. We have a new show, Underground Alliance, I believe. It's Underground Challenge. Check that out on the UWA page. You're going to see some new content there with that. We've got the big show ahead in August. I mean, a lot of great stuff ahead in UWA. You might want to go out and support them. Again, one more time on YouTube. They're almost at 600 subscribers. So hit the sub button for them. I'm going to put the link up here one more time. But you're going to definitely want to tune into all things related to UWA because Brett Anderson and Will Jackson have called their own shot and that they are going to wind up becoming the first ever UWA Tag Team Champions. Boy, they started with a bang. They closed with a bang. They said, you know what? We saw what Jay Cal said on Monday's show. We saw what happened between him and Chase Sullivan. And I know you guys want to get those tag team titles, especially after what Chase Sullivan did to your mentor, E.T. You want to make sure the Dirty South don't ever have any chance of sniffing those titles. And after all, if Aaron Blaze said they're dirty, we don't want them sniffing anything. So you definitely want to make sure. You definitely want to make sure that they don't hold those championships. I thought it would be funny. I thought somebody would laugh at that, but obviously.
Well, it definitely was.
Well, you know what? I'm sure that's going to certainly send some shockwaves in the UWA locker room. Maybe some guys might like it, some guys might not, but obviously, I'm sure we'll find out here. But you know what, guys? I know we've talked a lot tonight, and I hope that we can have you guys come back on. Maybe we'll see you guys in tag team action. I want to see you guys out there more, so hopefully maybe next month on the show, we'll have you on, maybe talk about some other things. Had a lot of fun tonight, and want to give you the guys the opportunity to speak and say anything else in closing thoughts. So I'm going to start with you first, Will, the Rising Angel. Give me some Rising Angel-like closing thoughts, and anything else you want to plug, share, or say. I pass the baton to you tonight.
Well, thank you. I just appreciate the chance to be on here. I appreciate everybody that supported me and Brett and all the companies that we've been part of. And just, I'm sure people look forward to seeing me and Brett tag teaming together. And I honestly look forward to spreading my wings and flying off into the sunset, if you know what I mean.
Ooh.
And as for those tag team belts, as you said, they might be made for us. So I'm pretty sure that's got our names written all over them.
You know what? You want to go on this journey and see if Will Jackson, the Rising Angel, is going to rise to gold in the UWA, the Underground Wrestling Alliance? That's his Instagram page. Go out and follow this young man on this journey, because it very well could be you want to talk about bigger rising stars this year in this circuit. He could be one of those names. You definitely want to go out there and support him. That's his link there. And he's obviously been very successful in SVBW United States champion. He's had a lot of success in RWA and many other places. And I have no doubt he's going to use that success to lead him to championship gold as potentially one half of those first ever UWA tag team champions. So we'll certainly look forward to seeing that here. And for you, Mr. Brett Anderson, the shooter, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you'd like to plug, share, or say? And I now give you the same opportunity. The floor is yours, my friend. Be my guest.
Well, I definitely agree with Will when it comes to the tag team championships. I'll be damned if those belts don't have our names written on them, and I'll be damned if the Dirty South gets them, especially after what Chase Sullivan did to ET. But also, I want to thank Jake Howell for showing his appreciation towards me and saying that he believes in me to be the future of the Underground Wrestling Alliance on Monday. And it definitely meant a lot to me for the compliments he did give me. And it made me realize how much of an impact one person can make on your entire career. And I believe that Jake Howell has just has definitely made me realize how special one person can be if you just let them know how special they really are. And I'm going to prove it to Jake Howell myself that I'm going to prove him right by telling me how good I was and how good I am in the mat. And yes, I'm usually silent whenever I am out there, but as you said, if you can't, just because you can wrestle doesn't mean that doesn't mean it speaks for you all the time. So I'm definitely going to be saying some things out there. Definitely.
Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt that you're going to make a lot of people proud, and you're absolutely right. You never know the impact you can have on somebody. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost anything to do something to help someone. And Jake Howell, what this man has done is helped you guys by giving you guys an opportunity to be on a larger platform, in a bigger stage, in a ring, in the Underground Wrestling Alliance. You guys were also a part of that special day on July 8th, 2024. We acknowledge it, UWA Day. You guys were a part of that. I know that banner is going to be there in the UWA arena, a very special thing that when you guys go back out there in that ring, you're going to see that banner. It's almost going to be like when a team hangs up a banner, when they win a championship or there's something special, whatever it is, you guys now have a banner that you can be proud of, to be motivated. You're going to see this, and it's going to be also motivating you, just like you're going to potentially be those first ever UWA Tag Team Champions. And if you want to follow Brett Anderson, that is his Instagram. Very simple, right to the point. Brett_Anderson_official, UWA Underground Wrestling Alliance, YouTube, Instagram, Threads. Also, check them out on TeePublic. A lot of great things ahead. More UWA coverages ahead here on Sportswire Radio. I can't wait for Last Rights. I can't wait for more news flashes with ET. I can't wait to see this whole situation with Jake Howell and Chase Sullivan unfold. Therefore, they're having a submission match, and it's a non-title match, but we'll see if that leads to them getting more into that Heritage Hall situation. Sammy Slade's open challenges ahead. Tristan Taylor is going to be out there with CJ, Aaron Blaze, and Mikey Reedy. and also a lot more ahead in the UWA. One more time, the newest members of the PWF Mid-South roster are the shooter Brett Anderson and the rising angel Will Jackson. A lot to look forward to for sure. Gentlemen, congratulations on all the success. Looking forward to watching you in not one but two companies in the PWF Mid-South and UWA and seeing what you guys also do and whatever comes of SVBW and RWA. And thank you so much for your time. Want to congratulate you on your success. You're welcome here anytime and hope to see you guys back here in the next month or so.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, it definitely was better than that last one you did. Probably that one. Now you can take that
You're
one.
damn right. You're damn
I'm
right.
sure that's going to be a topic now in the UWA locker room. What was that one he did? And they're going to watch it and go, "Oh, okay, that one doesn't count. That one doesn't count."
Guaranteed they'll be questioning me whenever we go back there.
Well, I'm
Sure.
sure. No, trust me. When the name comes up, it'll definitely. I'm sure it'll be one to talk about. This one, I can assure you, will not be the case. But that's why, ladies and gentlemen, that is the story of the shooter Brett Anderson and the rising angel Will Jackson, the newest members of the PWF Mid-South roster. They're also potentially could be the first UWA tag team champion. That's why you want to go support these guys on their journey. Brett_Anderson_official, Will_Jackson_official on Instagram. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, we're all wrestling matters. And I'm here now today, New York time, tomorrow in their time zone, because I'm going to be here live with Big Man Cam of XCW, ROBW, and he was at Summer Bash. And he's going to have a lot to say. He's as big as Bigfoot, and he's got a big following on TikTok. He's going to talk about all of that here and some, so be there for that. And plus, I'll have a major announcement because Friday, I've got two really big guests ahead, but you'll want to tune in on tomorrow's show just on who they are. But until then, if you're on Sportswire Radio, you're going back to your regular scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and X, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you share and like and also follow the UWA and follow us here on Sportswire Radio. And until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling